Your baby's mind is growing even before they arrive. The more you talk and sing and play, the more their mind will thrive. You gotta talk with your baby, play with your baby, read to your baby, make out you're a lion. Talk with your baby, play with your baby, read to your baby. Your words will grow their mind.
This season, we are recording on Kaurna land at PodBooth studio each and every episode, and we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging.
Your words will grow their mind.
Well, hello and welcome to the Words Grow Minds Parent Podcast. We'll bring you the experts who can decode what's happening in your baby's brain and give you practical tips on how you can nurture their development and help them to thrive.
And we promise to do this without adding to the ever-increasing parental load.
I'm Kate. I'm a mum of two, a stepmum of two, and a passionate believer in the importance of early childhood.
And I'm Amelia. I'm mum to Grace and to Ted. And I spent the last week hosing out a child seat. So if you know that, you know that. All right, Kate, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we are actually talking about dads. We spend a lot of time as mums talking about our experience as mums, talking to other mums, reading mummy blogs or being on forums, which my husband refers to as fretful mums groups. But today we're actually going to delve into the other side of parenting and talk about the joys, challenges and experiences that fathers face.
A quote that I used to refer to a lot, especially when I first had not only my eldest Grace, but my youngest Ted, and I was also, juggling having two kids, was all my kids need is a happy mum. But what about dads?
Absolutely. Well, we're going to explore that today. So to guide us in this discussion, we are joined by Thomas Docking.
Now, Tom is the founder and CEO of Dad's Group and the founder of Man with a Pram. And he's also dad to Evelyn, who's 11, Annabelle, who's 9, and Joseph, who's 6.
Tom Docking, thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of the Words Grow Minds Parent Podcast. We want to start by asking you about some of your experiences and what was it that led you to found Dad's Group?
Yeah, awesome. I think there's one thing that we missed out before. We talked about Evelyn, Annabelle and Joe, but we missed out on Kate, my wife.
Kate is your wife?
Who actually, founded everything with me as well. And, being on a team is the only way we're still here today. So
amazing.
Just want to shout out
Kate.
to Kate. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, shout out to Kate.
She's holding up the fort in Queensland while I'm here in Adelaide. So it's nice to be here, but I just want to acknowledge the foundations of Dad's Group as well.
Great. Well, tell us about that. So how did this come up? What was it that led you to believe there was a need for it? How did this come about?
Well, initially, so I've grown up firstly in an Aboriginal community, the son of a plumber and a midwife, and in the way I grew up, I guess I felt quite well-versed compared to the average, dude around maternity, I'd say. And Mum did some incredible work across Arakoon and Arnhem Land and Africa and all those types of things. So when it came to having a child myself, I thought, I've got this. But we planned a 2-year trip around the world. We were going to do a working holiday for 5-star resorts. We started at Hayman Island. Everything was going perfect.
Sounds good.
It was just fantastic.
Laying the foundation.
Exactly. And when we were probably a couple of months in and Kate came out to me in tears on the overlooking this amazing view. And she said, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. That's so exciting. And I just lied through my teeth. I was not thinking that's amazing. I was shocked. And I was doing my best to help her. But at the same time, I was also not being authentic myself about how I was feeling. And, 10 years later, I realized, oh, okay, that's probably something we can address here and actually get better at. And in that space, I was not ready for the plan. The plan was happening too early for me, or just not in my time or not in my way. So it was out of my control. And I think that out of control feeling was somewhat overwhelming. But on the outside, I was like, yeah, this is great. This is going to be so good. And then we had to get a seaplane across to the doctor. And the doctor at Airlie Beach said, I said, so what are the chances these, some tests can be wrong, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, some tests can be wrong. But in this case, the only time that they're wrong is if it indicates that she's not pregnant. I'm like, what is that? Okay, what is that? So if it says that she's pregnant, yes, this baby's happening.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, right. And so, all the way along, I'm just trying to understand and get my head around it. And I'm just, I guess even now, like I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to not be dealing okay with it. I was a bit ashamed of, what was going on inside me. And I think, I was also excited. So there were two feelings happening as well, but not addressing those other feelings was something I've learnt is actually a thing we can help other dads with and other mums, but particularly in our case, other fathers. And then we moved on to a U-turn back to Ringwood in Victoria and started the birthing classes, etc. And my mum had done these antenatal classes before and tried to engage fathers, and I just saw it was a massive gap there. Like the system, the midwives really an antenatal class and childbirth education experts, they're incredible at what they do, and I've worked with them, but they haven't had a system that's designed to meaningfully include fathers. So they do it each one their own way, but there isn't a system that actually includes fathers. So we just realised that's a massive oversight and an opportunity to really engage fathers from that early stage of parenting. And if we miss that, we're now seeing from research the downstream impacts of not being able to engage fathers positively in a strengths-based role early on. 5-10 years later, we see the consequences of that. And we as an organisation are now trying to raise the awareness of that to government. So actually, it's on us, some of this, and we can prevent some of this. Some of these tragic family outcomes that we're seeing that get really messy at the acute kind of systemic level, some of that's preventable. It's possibly not all preventable, but some of it's preventable, and we need to do something different.
Can we just explore what the gap was? So the gap was you found out you were going to be a father and you and your wife was starting a family unexpectedly. Was the gap that you didn't feel there was anyone you could talk to about that from your side of things, or was the gap when you're going through the classes and preparing for birth that there was no inclusion? Just explain where you thought the gap was that needed to be filled.
That's a really great question because it highlights the way we've approached the system of change essentially. But essentially the gap was all of the above and more. And essentially what we're dealing with is a systemic issue on one side and a cultural issue on the other side. So there's a systemic issue where the system doesn't meaningfully engage fathers in any way that fathers feel connected. And then there's a cultural issue where we're dealing with a previous culture of parenting and we're shifting and trying to navigate a new kind of generation of parenting. So we're all a bit uncertain. We all know what's the right rhetoric. We're good at that. But when it comes to home life and pre-birth and post-birth, roles around the home, and we were even joking before this around what roles around the home, like what is that meant to look like is kind of the question. How does that feed into positive outcomes or not so positive outcomes?
So take us, your eldest, Evelyn, was then born. Yeah. How was your journey from there?
We were really well supported, like in the sense of being supported by family around us, community, helpful people. And I think that's why I really liked your question, Kate, was because it's like there was still a gap, even with these supports. And where I felt incredibly different and supported was when I hung out with a couple of other dads with their infants. And I watched and observed. And, you look at all men's behavioural research and it talks about, observational learning, activity-based learning, the men shared shoulder to shoulder. We're taking all those things and applying that to birthing and being a new parent. And in that space, I was hanging out with these two dads and, the no sleep, no sex, no money kind of jokeable, dad's group, I guess, one-liners, which are the icebreakers, were actually normal there. And it was actually fine to talk about that. And I realised the ways that the mums group have been set up beautifully in Victoria and some other states has cultivated a real nurturing environment for a lot of mums. And those nurturing relationships have gone on into generationally for up to 40 years and 50 years. in a culture where we've shifted to dads being more involved, there's a massive gap there. And so if we can normalize dads groups, so it may not be for 100% of the dads, but we need to give access to all fathers to have that systemized connectedness. So if they want it, the access and the program is there for dads. Because at the moment, we absolutely love and work with maternal child health and child and family health nurses all over Australia. And the work they do is so powerful for the rest of the life of mother and child. However, we know that statistically speaking, changing the name to parenting groups hasn't changed the uptake of fathers in those spaces because there's a really special and important part of mums being together with mums, talking about their emotional or physiological shifts in the last 6 months. That's stuff where most dads may not want to be present. They might feel awkward because there's some important women's business going on. And I think the same is true for fathers. And growing up in Arnhem Land taught me important women's business and important men's business. That's actually a thing. And we can learn from this beautiful culture. We can bring some of those learnings into our current, highly medicalized, highly researched worlds and come back to that intergenerational fatherhood and do dads groups with granddads and dads and babies and have that safe space to go, oh, okay, this is normal. And it's a journey that millions, if not billions of fathers have gone on before us, and we'll be able to navigate it through. But without that level of intentional, meaningful, systemized fabric or framework, more and more of the 300,000 odd fathers each year are just dropping off the cliff and not being supported. And none of them are going to say anything about it until it's too late.
How have you cracked dads? How have you, with Dads Group, found a way to actually get dads, blokey blokes on board?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the main thing is working out when are people open to change. So we know that life transitions is a key area when people are open to change. So career, relationship, new baby, and also when we're experiencing death in part of our community, these are times when we get reflective. And we really see reflection time as a time when we can change who we want to be. We can kind of wake up from our being part of the grind and go, oh, actually, I want to be like this or I want to be like that. So that's what we call an opportunity window. It's a really short, brief opportunity window, but it's a powerful one. And if we can get the right message into mums and dads at the same time around father inclusion and the benefits to mums and the benefits to babies' cognitive development, the benefits to babies' emotional regulation. If dad knows how to regulate emotionally, he's actually training and teaching his baby through what he's doing rather than traditional education. He's not getting his baby to do a baby module, but the baby module might be holding the baby skin to skin and looking out the window at the raindrops on the window. And that is the education.
Rewinding now to the first couple of dads groups that you started, what were some of the reactions and what were, if you're happy to share them, some of the stories brought to the table?
What were some of the experiences? Mothers were a little bit curious at the start. Oh, what's this about, And then...
Are they getting together to complain about us?
What is this? What is weird dad group cult? What are they saying about us? There's definitely that. But then we, said, oh, let's invite mums to dad's group and have family days so they get what we're doing. And when we did, they'd literally come, they'd be like there for 3 minutes and go, I don't need to be here, I'm out of here. I'm going to go hang out with a friend or go for a run or go wash my hair or whatever. These are new mums, right? And I think that's the piece, which is, the mums realize, this is a safe space. Like these guys are there to be the best version of themselves and they're sharing and they're doing that in a way that I don't need to listen. I want to enjoy the impacts of this, I don't need to be part of the program. And I think that's been really awesome to watch. Some of the mums feedback to us over the years, like, oh, this has really helped him focus on, being a father, not just work, when it's really easy because the system nudges often fathers outside the parenting role unintentionally.
Well, it does. It's 2 weeks, and not in all businesses, might I add, but in a lot of businesses, if at all, it's 2 weeks and then you're back at work.
Yep, exactly.
And it's like it never happened.
Yep, exactly.
And it has.
Yeah.
And you're not, as a dad, you're not sleeping. You might not be doing the night feeds or whatever, but you're still not sleeping.
Yep.
Your life is completely upended. and you want to have this connection with this baby, but you now get home once you've caught the train or you've dealt with traffic and it's 6 o'clock and the baby goes to bed.
Yep. Or you're handed a screaming baby. And either like we have to come back to, we can't polarize our audience into mums and dads and needs and, fairness. Like it just doesn't work. We're not going to get any closer to a solution. We have to go, let's walk together with this. Let's get on the same page at how we're going to do it. Because I think over the years I've seen people go, oh yeah, but mums need this but dads need this. It's like, yeah, actually we need to work together. We need to work out at a system level how we foster and facilitate working together. But it's around from that early years, how do we work together? And I think it's this reflective process of unpacking our needs and validating our needs from a generation that was parented where, I don't know, but probably a lot of parents that I hear say that my emotional needs were never validated as a child, And so I was like, okay, that's okay. So how do we change that? Because, and other people said, we're the generation that are reparenting our parents, reparenting ourselves, and reparenting our children. So we've got that
sandwich generation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot. Can you break it down a little bit further? What does a session with a dad's group entail?
Yeah, great. So we do a number of different programs. We've started with the community program, Dads and Babies. We moved to a integrated hospital program. So in the antenatal class, we do digital programs. So every Monday night, you can dial in and as a new dad and join the discussion. We have different expert talk, speakers. And then there's the workplace program as well. And then we do other, different types of specific bespoke programs for different organisations. But we call those together the integrated model of care. So I can speak to each different one of those. But firstly, the most obvious where we started was dads and babies meeting at a park with a coffee in that space. So, for example, in the Sunshine Coast, the program, the fathers arrive there because we've connected with them in the antenatal class and we've registered them. So this is the first time in history that dads have been recorded as a number in the health system. And then we're inviting them to an event that's specifically for them outside of the hospital and health service. A little bit like the child health, service for mums. In that space, there's a hospital employee who rocks up with a hospital logo and a dad's group logo on his shirt, and his job is to facilitate a space for dads. A bit of the background of what we do, his own lived experience shared safely. Often that deals with trauma or it deals with some kind of level of stress or anxiety. And the resolve or the pathway he took to actually resolving that, and why this is a great therapeutic process, but it's also a process that's really normalized through being in a park, having a coffee, and actually finding and reflecting on your own, self, your own journey, and how's that going to impact your own family.
Can I ask a little bit about the dads who are seeking you out, finding dads groups? Aren't they the dads who get it, who are aware that they want to be involved and attached? And isn't there an issue about a whole range of other dads who would probably never think to look up dads groups or who actually, need to be...
Would benefit most.
Yeah, might benefit most from being involved or recognising that there is a different way to dad and there are different supports to dad and different people to talk to. How do we get to those dads?
Yeah. So that's a great question. The thing about that question, though, is are we trying to get a quick solution faster than really is capable for the systemic change and the cultural change?
Yes,
so you're
that's
right.
What I do, Tom.
Yeah. So we're trying to leapfrog the realities, and as I started out, this is not a quick fix solution. So firstly, we'd like that to be the case. But if that was the case, you'd implement a solution and everyone will be fixed in inverted commas. But that doesn't work. So what does work is long, slow system change and cultural change at the same time. So to get that change, to get that dad who's never going to go to dad's group there, we actually need to do a lot of work.
It starts before then.
Yeah, it starts before that. What we do focus on is, well, what are the small elements that we can do? Because, often in that dad you're talking about, often they will end up in one of those, first-time parenting classes. They will get there, and that's why we're there. And we can't force them to come, but we can give them access. And I think that's what we've got to focus on. What is, the system needs to think, what is my role? Like as a parent, we think, okay, what is my role with this issue with my child, right? And we go, personalize it and then systemize. So my child has this issue. Is it my job to fix it? Is it my job to listen, or is it my job to kind of show a pathway? That's the challenging, complex problem that as parents we face 100 times a week. Take that to the system and go, what's our job? Our job is first to provide access to something. If we're not providing access to something, we use the example that in the 60s, they were building cars with no seatbelts and they were cool cars. Now, if a car comes out of a factory without a seatbelt, that organisation is negligent. We would say that the research demonstrates that if you let a father leave the hospital health service or the family services without any kind of access to support, that's becoming a question of, is that being negligent? We should be, we shouldn't let them go out with no support. It's just based on the research. It's obvious. It's so simple.
It's so simple. I think this is a great opportunity to take a quick break. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Kate. We'll be back shortly.
Your baby's mind is growing even before they arrive. The more you talk and sing and play, the more their mind will thrive. Gotta talk with your baby, play with your baby, read to your baby, make out you're a lion. Talk with your baby, play with your baby, read to your baby. Your words will grow their mind. Every time you interact with your child, you're helping grow their mind. For more information, visit wordsgrowminds.org.au.
Okay, welcome back. We're going to be talking now about how we best support dads so they can support their families. So we've covered off what Dad's Group is with you, Tom, but what are some of the things dads bring to Dad's Group and perhaps they haven't processed and it is preventing them from being fully there?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, because I think that's at the very core of the layers that we're dealing with is what's the blocker, what's stopping us. And my own lived experience, I can say that there's stuff there that I've had to face and deal with and work through over years to actually be more of the person that I want to be. I wouldn't even say at all now I'm the dad that I want to be. I've got a long way to go, but I'm more self-aware, and I'm investing both in time and dollars in working through what I would call various elements of my upbringing, and also the way that I want to parent and the way that I see, my child benefiting the most. But in that space, to your question around what are some of the dads bringing, often the greatest, joy and feeling of like we're doing the right thing as an organisation is when a father is part of one of our activities or programs, either online or offline. I can remember a dad who came to us during COVID, jumped online. One of the dads shared about vicarious trauma, and there was this kind of, you see the faces and they're like, oh, what the heck's that, And in that space, we rather unpack, well, that can be when someone goes through a traumatic experience, but the other person is watching that traumatic experience, and that can trigger a vicarious trauma experience for the person who's watching. So it's actually not, you didn't feel that physical pain, but now you've been traumatized by it. And there was just this like, wow, I think I've got that, and that person was able to go and explore and unpack that and get some like really awesome like professional support that we encourage all dads to do as part of becoming who they want to be, as the best version of themselves. He comes back months later and says, I heard about vicarious trauma. I explored it. I realized that was my experience. I also learned in the process that this vicarious trauma was having a blocker in the relationship with my infant and a blocker in the relationship with my partner. And because of that, now that I've invested in that and I've shared that with my partner and I've got some, I'm walking through how to actually resolve some of that in myself, that relationship with both my infant and my partner is now flourishing because of it. And that, to me, is the most powerful part of the work that we can do, is being part of people's journey to go, oh, okay, there's some stuff here which is really tough, and I don't want to share it with everyone. And I'm definitely not going to share it if you ask me. But when I feel comfortable and safe, and when I hear someone else that's gone through that experience and they're right in front of me and I'm having a coffee with them, like, yeah, actually, so what did you do then? Like, what's the, essentially they're asking, what's the pathway there?
Do you think that's something we need to raise awareness with mums about? Because I can tell you that if my husband started talking to me about his trauma from the childbirth that I went through, I'd probably tell him where to go pretty quickly. And, you know, everything you're saying, it makes perfect sense. Seeing someone you love go through something, feeling helpless, feeling responsible, not knowing what to do, it makes sense that that has an impact. But I don't know whether I'd give my partner the space to complain about that.
I'm so glad you said that, because you're bringing like the reality of the home life into like the I guess the philosophy of what we're talking, and that is exactly what's needed. Essentially, no, she's not the person to fix you, right? That's the point. And this is a journey you actually need to go on, or your own pathway for that. You can communicate to her about what you're doing, and she will be appreciative of that, but she's not there to fix you. And you're actually both on different journeys. But if you share your intention of this is actually to become better as a couple, as parenting co-partners, and, you know, mums and dads together with this little baby being nurtured in this environment, that's going to be something that really brings you together. I think often, you know, Kate, my wife, and I, we do this thing where we share and the other person just listens, and, you know, at different times throughout the week or the month, you know, the other person will just listen, but their job is to validate the other person's feelings, not to help them with a solution. And it's so hard to do.
It is so hard. It is so hard.
It's almost impossible. But when it's almost like we have this little cheat sheet that we've gone through with our psychologist, and she's like, just do this, this, this. And when we follow that process, we both feel incredible. Like, this is really validating for me. Like, oh, right. So essentially what we're saying there is we haven't grown up with those skills. We haven't been shown those emotional capabilities. And so therefore our relationship has had a blocker on it. And that's what we're saying. This is the question about, should mums be introduced to this? It's a universal human challenge. It's not a dad's problem. We're just dealing with the dads, because if we can deal with the dads, we know that their home environment is going to be better for them, better for their partner, better for their infant, and most likely their work environment is going to be better as well.
What do you wish that you knew at the beginning of your journey as a father that you know now?
Your own awareness of yourself is so much lower than you think it is. And there's so much more to unpack, and just give yourself time, but be intentional about it. And I think that's the same message to all the dads. Like, hey, you're about to become a dad, or you're a dad. This infant is going to forgive you more times than you deserve being forgiven, right? Completely. They're going to treat you like so much better than you deserve. And that is the blessing of being a dad. It's awesome, right? But at the same time, there's a responsibility there. And it's like, well, what are you going to do with that? How are you going to treat that? I feel it's unfair the way that sometimes the kids treat dads over mum. It's like, well, mum's done this all day, and then I get, you know, hero status for doing like one nominal thing, you know, and like that's a challenge. But we can say, hey, that should change, or we can just say, well, that's how it is. How are we going to use that to enhance our family and enhance what we have here? And I think from my perspective, it's really not trying to change the core healthy or normal things that happen, but just go with that. And how do you fold that back into investment into your family?
So knowing all that you know, and in your experience in the last decade, what is one or maybe a number of things that you wish dads and even mums would know now? Some practical things that you just wish they would know.
Yeah, it would be that the things that look like the end of the road are the beginning of a road.
Wow. There you go. I think that is a very good place to wrap it up. Tom Docking, can we just say thank you so much for joining us on the Words Grow Minds Parent Podcast?
Thank you so much, Tom. You've shared a lot of really beautiful things there.
Thank you.
Okay, Kate, I'm ashamed to say that I kind of went into this episode and preparing for it with a really, you know, just top layer approach. But it is really just common sense. You know, if you equip fathers better, they can play a better role in early childhood, in a growing family, and everyone wins. This isn't why don't we have an International Men's Day? Why don't we have a dad's group? This is different. This is lifting everyone up.
I thought it was a really interesting discussion because we don't give enough airtime to it. But I mean, think about it. We all want our children to have great dads. We want great partners. And yet we don't talk about how we support that and how we make sure that we change systems and change cultures to make that more common for everyone. And we should be investing in that. So I thought it was a great discussion.
I do feel like we could have talked to Tom for a lot longer, but also B, that we've really only just scratched the surface with this conversation we've had with Tom Docking. What we will do though for our listeners is make sure we get all the links, the links to Dad's group and perhaps some resources that Tom finds useful, in the show notes for this episode of the Words Grow Minds Parent Podcast, because we do think he's shared some really valuable points here.
Absolutely. And let's have a think, you and I, about how we can continue the discussion and make sure that we're involving dads in the discussion as we go forward. But speaking of discussion, this is the end of ours for today. So
what a segue.
I know, the segue. I'm a master at it these days. Season 2 now. Can we just once again thank Tom Docking? I thought that was excellent conversation. And of course, thank our listeners for tuning in to the Words Grow Minds Parent Podcast.
And we'll see you next time for more Words Grow Minds.
Thanks for listening to the Words Grow Minds Parent Podcast. We love hearing from you, so please subscribe, review and comment on the podcast. And for plenty of ideas to support your child's development, go to wordsgrowminds.org.au and follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Your words will grow their mind.